I'm here with James Crowe, who's the Green Party candidate for Napier. James, kia ora, and thanks for chatting with me.
Kia ora, morena. Thanks for having me.
Good to see you again. This is not your first rodeo or campaign.
Mm-hmm.
Last time you came quite a distant third, with about 1950 votes, 1,950 personal votes, and about nearly 2,500 party votes.
Wonderful.
Did you achieve what you set out to achieve?
I did. I wasn't standing, nor am I again standing to be an MP. I'm standing to be a conduit and a community-based representative for the Green Party. So I'm fully invested in the policies and the party. This is what I believe in.
Yeah.
But my job within the party, and as a member, is not to try and push myself to the top of a ranking system. And again, this time I'm actually not on the list. I was here during the floods and couldn't attend, so the rules didn't allow me to be on the list. But the purpose is the same. If someone needs to talk to me in Napier about Napier issues, then the Greens perspective, then that's what I'm here to do for 3 months. And for the rest of the 3 years, outside elections, I'm still in the community and still chat with people. So I was happy with the result, and it got us more MPs. And we just need to push harder this time, and also reassure Green members locally that we're still thinking about the community across the Greater Hawke's Bay. And I think that's what I'm showing, is I'm back again to be that relationship partner for the community.
Yeah, because I noticed you weren't on the list, but Nick Ratcliffe in the Tuki is on the list. I think he's number 20 or 19.
I think he's on my 25.
Oh, something like that.
That was my number last time, which again I asked to be at the bottom of the list. We have a young family and commitments to community and to our small business. And so we weren't there for that. As many aren't on the Green list. They're really there to help just spread the message and be available during the election. And that's important. That's important because we are a party that gets in based on its party vote. So I was happy with that number. And we do want to see that number stay strong and just give confidence to our Green community, which is larger than our membership locally. It really is people who come out and support. And that's what we're here to do again. What
do you do about the wasted personal vote? Because if you've got nearly 2,000 people voting for you.
It is. And look, this is a challenge that I think a lot of parties face, is that a two-tick campaign, or seeing the person, believing in the person, I would look at that as those 1,900 or so votes saying, we wanted to give it to you more than anybody else. And I say thank you, but at the same time, we'd always love people to think strategically around the government they want to see. And you will never see a Green-only government in New Zealand. We will be partners, as we have been, with other parties that are like-minded. And that's the same balance that I think people should think about with their party vote. And with their member vote. So if you want the MP you want to see in your community, support them. I'll still be in the community regardless. But I think, there's definitely a dynamic around party vote versus candidate vote. But some people just want to do those two ticks, and they can still do that. But I am on the Māori roll. I'm on the Māori roll, so I can't vote for myself.
Okay.
I forget that every time.
Yes.
Yeah.
So you suggesting to people that they give their candidate vote to possibly Labour and then party vote to you?
Yeah, look, absolutely. I think if you don't want to put it somewhere else, put it with us. That we're a party built on protests and actions. If you want to send that message to other larger parties, give it to me. That clearly says you need to work harder if you want my party vote. But otherwise, my candidate vote. But really, if we want to see a government that continues to progress, we do need partners. And we've successfully worked in and outside cabinet with Labour, but we work better in cabinet. So we need that party vote for Green, and we need to see a good MP for Napier. And at the same time, we need to see a really dynamic government that people can hold to account, and that's what we're there for.
Now, what did you learn from your last campaign, and what are you doing differently this time?
I think the most important thing is that I entered the election last time as relatively new to being involved in the political process of the Green Party. I've stayed really strong within that for the 3 years. So I've been the local co-convener. I've seen the adaptation and the change within the party. I've seen how we've dealt with issues, which has been healthy. And I've seen the enshrinement of Te Tiriti o Waitangi into our processes and policies, and that's been a really healthy system. If I didn't feel that we have a party that can actually move through challenges, and there always will be, some we can foresee, some we can't, I wouldn't still be with the party and supporting its message. So I back the party, and I back being the representative for Napier as well. So I've learnt that it's still a strong, healthy whānau collective, the Greens, and that can do really great things as long as we're given the right tools. We've been outside cabinet. It's been much harder this time than it was in the previous 3 years because we actually had ministers who had real clout, and we want to return to that position. So if you want to see some of those areas, we just pick environment, but we have really strong policies you've seen around economics and social, health. You do need to help us get back into cabinet, and that means we need that strength in our vote, in our party vote.
Now, obviously, the cyclone has changed everything. Mm-hmm. How do you factor that in your campaign? Not just the rebuild, but also obviously the climate change aspect of it. How have you factored that into your campaign?
Yeah, that's fascinating. So the gap between, say, COVID, which was an unexpected reality disaster, we've had forecasting for 20, 30 years saying this is what's coming, and sort of now the rubber's meeting the road. We're now dealing with the issues that have been forecasted, and we know these issues will become stronger based on scientific forecasting. So if we don't actually act and continue to act in ways that protect from now to 2050, we're going to end up in an even worse position. And we can only recede from the ocean so far. We can only lift so many houses. We can only accept so much of our region becoming, say, non-arable or unable to rebuild before we do have to say, okay, well, how long will the hurt go on before we actually start to cut some of those emissions more aggressively? We need to sort of take some of the hurt now, whereas we seem to keep pushing it down the road. Our party wants to move stronger on that, but again, it's very difficult if we're shining a light on it, but we don't act as the majority party, and if we're outside cabinet, it's very difficult. So I think a lot of the policies that we will bring through will mean that people have economic support to allow them free thinking and time to think, how can I help the community versus how do I pay the rent? And at the same time, when we do things like the rebuild, we do want to see the types of houses and the building structures being used not just meet sort of a 2050 goal, because currently it's sixfold the amount of emissions coming off the types of rebuild you would see with new houses. So we're actually going to put ourselves still continually behind the curve on the 1.5 degree. So it'd be very quick to say let's rebuild, and let's rebuild better, but better also means we need to look at how we build our houses and that they're future-proofed, not just in warmth and guarantees of security, so you can own a home or rent a home, but also the idea that that home won't, say, require additional painting and refurbishing and adjustments over the next 30 years to meet that 1.5 degree climate lift. Yeah. So I think there's a lot to consider. Yeah. But we are really at an epicenter, as is Auckland. I mean, that was unheard of. I lived through Cyclone Bola, and as a child, and for me, I remember it was just the time when the waves really lashed the beach. Yeah. My children now growing up, they will not think that what happened in Auckland or here was that memory. They saw houses flooded. They saw people. Well, it was different
because this time the sea didn't play any part in. No. In that, it was all down rivers.
We were very lucky. Yeah. Yeah. And the flooding in Auckland, is, to my reference, was the impact of the storms and the amount of water that we have to deal with is now more in a tropical environment, not a subtropical. And I think we've often built our houses around that idea that we're a relatively warm, comfy country, which we're not. At the same time, we've built our infrastructure on the idea that we're a relatively dry country with mild rainfall, and we're not. And we're not anymore. And so I think this area, especially because we rely on our arable land so much, is not only are we losing access to housing, but also to incomes for families and support to grow the region, which is a big goal, of course. So we have to do that in a smart way, or we'll find ourselves in the same position for our next two generations.
Yeah, absolutely.
So now's the time.
Yeah.